48 Atlanta, 43 in Jackson, 53 in Houston, and thankfully had the sun out today. It feels
This edition of WeatherScope is sponsored by TWA. At TWA, we're working to win your next flight with every flight. We want to be your airline.
This is WeatherScope.
Well, tonight we have two big stories
Right.
and many kind of subplots within that. There's rain and thunder in the Northeast, a possible tornado in Pennsylvania,
Right.
and snow is the problem in the Great Lakes. Those are the two big stories.
Right.
We'll get to the subplots here in just a minute. Good evening and welcome to WeatherScope. I'm Dave Schwartz.
And I'm Kim Perez. Showers also cover parts of the Pacific Northwest, and we'll be talking about that in a few. But let's begin with a look at the snowstorm that slammed the Windy City earlier today with up to 10 inches of snowfall.
That's a lot of snow.
And if you weren't prepared for it, it made it very nasty this morning when you had to go off to school or off to work. The good news is that it is winding down a little bit as you head farther west. The winds are not letting up though, so that's a big problem out there tonight. Any snow that has fallen, it is blowing and drifting out there, and we have seen a lot of snow with this storm. Here's the track. Since Friday morning, all weekend long, we have been following this storm, and we actually had a heavy snow band here. And that might have been a little bit of lake enhancement there with northeasterly winds. It's very possible here. That's why at Midway you had about 11 inches of snowfall. And just off to the east, it continued on. 6 to 12 inches here in Ottawa County. The snow is tapering off a little bit here though tonight. Looks like the heavier snow will be farther south with lake effect kicking up. But if you were in Ottawa County this morning, you had to try to find any way you could to get to work or get to school if you had to go. Cars got stuck. Tried every means available to try to get your cars unstuck, but probably the best advice would have been just to stay home. But the good news is it is winding down a little bit tonight. Here it is again. Most of that heavier snow is off to the east now, affecting Detroit. And even Chicago, we're at Midway. We had 11 inches of snowfall. It is now winding down, although the winds are not winding down. As a matter of fact, Kristen Dodd is there tonight in the Windy City. And Kristen, it's definitely windy there tonight, isn't it?
It is, Kim, and all throughout the day we've seen the wind gusts top out at about 60 miles an hour along Lakeshore Drive. It's still very gusty here in downtown Chicago, and that's putting our wind chill at about 5 to 6 degrees below zero. It's even going to get colder by tomorrow morning. Some of the coldest air that this city has seen this season. We had plenty of snowfall earlier today. As you mentioned, 11 inches fell in Midway, and that was enough to cause plenty of headaches both on the roads and at the airports. Now, this is O'Hare Airport, where we saw passengers stranded as a ground stop was in place. No planes were allowed to arrive for about 5 hours today, and there were only limited departures Folks all across the country had to deal with that as planes were just not traveling through Chicago today. On the roadways today, we did also see this problems as we saw the snow and blowing snow really bring the morning commute to a standstill. Plenty of accidents, and even at this hour we are still seeing a few accidents on the roadway. Down below me here is the Eisenhower Expressway, and we have seen traffic flowing fairly nicely, although in the past half hour we have seen at least one spin out as a car did a 360. Again tonight we're battling the cold temperatures. By tomorrow morning the wind chill could be 25 degrees below. Kim?
Stay warm, Kristen. We'll be checking back with you in about a half hour. Now, the snow has not just affected Chicago, it's affected South Bend, it's affected folks in Evansville, even Cincinnati, where it changed over to snow earlier this morning. It's rained, though, in Akron. Cleveland, a little bit of snow mixing in. It will be all snow tonight and tomorrow. We're expecting lake effect snows to pick up. There's northwesterly winds here, picking up moisture from Lake Huron and Lake Erie. We could see amounts maybe on the order of 3 to 6 inches in some areas, and there's lake, especially in like in Ashtabula or Geauga County. Indianapolis, some snow tonight. We could see a couple of inches there for you. Now, a big problem here in Iowa is not too much snow falling anymore, or even in Wisconsin. It's blowing and drifting snow tonight. So that's going to be some problems on the roadways there for you. The snow will extend even into the Appalachians. Expect 3 to 6 inches in Snowshoe, West Virginia. Let's take a look at how the storm is affecting the Northeast. Here's Dave.
Well, Kim, it's just a deluge. Rain rather than snow has made a mess of your day. In Salem, New Hampshire, where it's been raining off and on most of the day. Many area streets and highways have standing water, which could cause dangerous driving conditions, especially at night. So you'll want to be very careful later on tonight and tomorrow. Flood watches remain in effect for much of southern New England. We have really had our share of storms here this winter, huh? Boy, it really has been wet. Flood watches in effect from Nashua southward across Boston back to Worcester and all of course, Rhode Island and most of Connecticut back into the New York City metropolitan area, and for good reason. The moisture continues to stream northward. This is the tropical feed. This is the warm conveyor belt, as some folks at meteorology talk about, and this is where we can get just persistent heavy rains, and it looks like that's what's going to happen in southeastern New England tonight, and then working up onto Portland, Maine later on tonight. Some flooding is a possibility. This all rain. Temperatures on the mild side, still 55 in Boston. I'll bet when you woke up this morning you didn't believe it was going to be almost 60 degrees today. It was upper 30s, foggy, light wind. Then the winds kicked up from the south out ahead of this frontal boundary and really warmed things up. Same story here in New York.